What's up, Pokemaniacs? I am the Online Orphan, and I am your analyst for Season 2 of the PUL, or Pokemon Ubers League. And we are back with another video, this time talking about the Week 2 Power Rankings. Now, quick disclosure, of course, these are just the opinion of myself in regards to the battles we see from the first 2 weeks. Differential and record have little to do with the power rankings, but we will go over all of that information as we go about it. So we're going to take a look at 5 teams at a time, talk about their performance, and go from there. So let's start right at the bottom, and you can see here this week after week 2, the Southern Blazikins are going to be in the number 20 spot with an overall 0-2 record. They are dropping 4 spots this week, and the Southern Blazikins really had their biggest issue in not realizing that they could not status affect something with Tapu Finney's Misty Terrain up. There were multiple turns where they kept clicking Spore, and obviously that is not going to work within the Misty Terrain. So really just a bad play there on the Southern Blazikins' part, and falling 0-2 in the battle against their opponent. So they had a bit of a drop here, and hopefully they can turn it around for the rest of the season. Now jumping into the 19 spot, and actually where they were last week as well, is going to be the Albany Dragonites. Now, last week they were in this spot because they hadn't yet completed their Week 1 battle. However, they have now, and they are at the 0-2 record, and they lost their Week 2 battle 0-3. And unfortunately, they really didn't have a good switch in to the opponent's Greninja, and if they perhaps prepared something for that, they would have stood a better chance in the Week 2 battle, but overall they were really on the back foot most of this Week 2 battle. They got hazard stacked and were switched around a lot, so the Albany Dragonites staying at that number 19 for Week 2. Next up in the 18 spot this week, we're going to talk about the Seattle Slowpokes. The Seattle Slowpokes going down 1 spot this week from 17 to 18. They're with the overall 0-2 record, and they lost their Week 2 battle 0-4. Now, I do think they had a good use of their Hoopa Unbound, and that's why they did not drop very far, of course. However, in a similar situation, they really were forced into a lot of defensive switching in this battle. They could never really get the momentum in their favor, and because of that, they were unable to really get any sort of foothold besides the kills with Hoopa Unbound. So Seattle Slowpokes dropping a spot down to number 18. In that number 17 spot here, we have the Brighton Bulldors, who are falling 3 spots this week. Brighton Bulldors with the overall 0-2 record, and they lost 5-0 to their opponent. And really, their biggest issue was they had no special wall in Week 2. They really had nothing to combat the Heatran at all, and they had really no defensive switch in to a special attacker this week. So that's where they really fell. Really their only defense for Week 2 was Ferrothorn, and obviously that thing went down pretty fast. So next time, make sure you have that special defensive wall there to take the attacks necessary, and you should be good to go. And next up, we are taking a look at the 16 spot. It is going to be the Cardwell Colossals, taking a big fall this week, down 7 as they end up getting 6-0 swept. Now at a 1-1 record. Now they did miss a Stone Edge in their game, which was unfortunate. However, they allowed the opponent to set up with the Empoleon, And then, as soon as the Empoleon got that first kill, they then set up the rain for it the very next turn, powering up the Empoleon's water-type moves. And not having Thunder on the Kyogre was a questionable decision in my mind. So really, I think the Cardwell Colossals saw a losing game and then just couldn't find a way to pull themselves out of it. So a big drop from week 1, but I think they can certainly turn it around from here. All right, let's jump into the next 5 here, and we are taking a look at a couple of big drops here, as at the number 15 spot this week is going to be the Jacksonville Jolteon, dropping an entire 10 spots this week, as they are now 1-1, and they ended up losing 0-5 to their opponent. And really, their biggest issue was they had no solid answer for Milotic. There was nothing they really had on the team that could do enough damage to bring it down so that it couldn't recover fast enough to heal itself back up. It was a Flame Orb Milotic variant, so they could have attacked it on the special side and perhaps would have had a little better chance of taking it down, but they had nothing to deal with that thing, and really they ended up losing because they couldn't break down the opponent. So I think the Jacksonville Jolteons, will be able to get themselves back into the top, however, after a strong week 1. So let's keep an eye out for them. Up next, we have our first positive mover of the week, and it is going to be the Cleveland Crobats at the number 14 spot. And I don't know why I don't have their record up there, but they are sitting at 1-1 this week, pulling out a 2-0 victory and moving up 4 spots from last week. Really, they just had a fantastic job switching around on the opponent and taking advantage of the opponent's mistakes under the misty terrain. So couldn't justify moving them up more than where they are at this point, again, because it was only a 2-0 victory, and really the only standout of the match was there was good offense and defensive pivoting on their part. So if they can keep that up, they can certainly keep rising through the ranks. Now, next up in the 13 spot is going to be the Umende X-Clouds here. And again, apologies for not having the record on the screen, but they are also at the 1-1 record, losing this week 0-3. And really, they had a bit of trouble with their over predictions in this game. They certainly did a good job of breaking down the opponent's walls in Porygon and Porygon 2 and Toxapex, but I think they over-predicted a little bit too much with their Landorus, and I think that cost them the game. So they took a big drop this week, down 6, but again, based on their week 1 battle, I think they could certainly bring themselves right back into the top 10. Next up in the 12 spot this week is going to be the Maine Red Clowitzers. Maine Red Clowitzers taking a 6 spot drop here with a 1-1 record and losing 0-5 this week. It was strange not to see E-Speed on Genesect, or if it was there, not clicking it when need be, because they were getting set up on by Zygarde and had a potential chance to take it out if that Genesect had E-Speed, so may have been an issue in either prep or misplay there. I did like the quick attack on Flareon. That was a nice touch there, but combining that with the E-Speed, Genesect could have saved them at least a little bit of differential on this game, not losing 0-5 here. Might not have taken as big of a drop, but that's where the Clowitzers are going to be for this week. As we take a look at another big drop this week in the 11 spot, it's going to be the Crazy Kermit Club, standing at that 1-1 record and going to be a 10 space drop here. And really, the issue here is They only lost their battle 0-2, so certainly a good game. And I did like the speed boost into the Curum. That was well played. They had a couple of misses in the game, which certainly could have played a role in the battle, and got a little bit unlucky, but all in all, again, they did end up losing the game. Their opponent had nice clear smog coverage for the setup Blaziken, so really well played by their opponent. I think the Crazy Kermit Club can jump right back up, though. Again, not a bad game, but not the best played ever, in my opinion, as well. So let's jump into the top 10 now, and we are going to be starting out with the Black City Bisharps in that 10 spot, moving up 3 spaces this week with a 1-1 record. Again, winning 2-0 this week, and they were actually the ones to beat the Crazy Kermit Club this week. Again, clear smog on the Wheezing was a nice bring to stop the speed boosting Blaziken, and then they certainly got a little bit of luck with the one turn of sleep on the Darmanitan, but overall this was a really well played game, and you can see here they're right next to each other in the rankings for a good reason, because again, this was a very, very well played game, and really great job to both coaches, but the Black City Bisharps do deserve this spot in the top 10 this week. Next up in the number 9 spot, falling 5 spaces this week, is the Melbourne Staryous. The Melbourne Staryous now with that 1-1 record, and actually did take a 0-2 loss this week. However, they had a really solid Giratina set this week to take on the opponent. And I think they also missed an opportunity to click E-Speed in this match. So again, not sure if the coaches are having issues with remembering that they have E-Speed or access to E-Speed, but perhaps could have turned the battle around if the Entei did have that. So Melbourne Staryous, still a top 10 team in my opinion, and if they can keep a winning streak going, I think they can stay in the top 10. Next up in the 8th spot is the Warsaw Weaviles, taking 3 spots up and into the top 10 this week with a 1-1 record, and having that 2-0 victory over those Melbourne Staryous right below them. And really, as far as this match goes, I think the Heracross was a fantastic bring, as it really did put in a lot of work against the Staryous. So overall, just a great prep by the Weaviles and a well-played game all around. So they deserve this jump here into the top 10. Next up in the 7th spot is going to be the Blazing Infernape with a big 8-spot jump into the top 10 here. The 1-1 record and winning 4-0 in their game. Really a great Trick Room Dialga bring this week, really throwing the opponent off for a little bit, and had some fantastic predictions on the opponent's switches. Really had the opponent on the back foot really the entire game. So Trick Room Dialga, great bring, great predictions, even though they could have been over predictions, worked out perfectly in the Blazing Infernape's position. So just a well-played game by the Blazing Infernapes. Next up in the 6th spot this week, jumping up 6 places into the top 10 as well, is the Lexington Leafeons. The Lexington Leafeons now with a 1-1 record and picking up a 5-0 victory. And they were the ones who were unable to be broken, as they had that Flame Orb Milotic that just put a halt in their opponent, really having nothing to completely break it down. I do think they missed a potential KO with the Magneton versus Skarmory. I think if they had done a quick calc on the volt switch to it, they might not have gone for the volt switch there and just gone for the finishing move in the Thunderbolt. So potential for a possible 6-0 instead of a 5-0, but really the Milotic is what kept this game just completely out of reach for their opponent. So well played by the Lexington Leafeons and deserving of this top 10 spot. So with that being said, let's jump into the top 5 for the Week 2 Power Rankings. So here we go. Starting at that number 5 spot, we have the Wellington Ho-Oh. The Wellington Ho-Oh with the 1-1 record now, up 5 this week. So staying in the top 10, but now in the top 5. Again, a 5-0 victory this week. Really, their best play was wearing down and getting rid of that Ferrothorn early because the opponent did not have a switch in to their Heatran. The Heatran was a perfect Pokemon for this battle and really tore the opponent apart. So a very well played game by the Wellington Ho-Ohs, getting rid of the defensive wall early in Ferrothorn and then just bringing Heatran in and claiming lives. So well done by the Ho-Oh. In the 4 spot this week, the Calverton Kinglers with that 2-0 record, up 4 spaces this week and winning their match 3-0. The Calverton Kinglers had a really strong showing with hazard stacking the opponent and dragon tailing them across the hazards along with the sticky webs to really ensure that they were getting all the opportunities they need to bring in their Greninja and take down the opponent. So a well-played strategy by the Calverton Kinglers, ending up with a nice victory for them. Next up in the top 5 is the Haxo Haldarin, staying in that number 3 spot this week and claiming another victory as they are now 2-0, getting a 3-0 victory over their opponent this week. The first turn knockout of the Mienshao really pushed this game in their favor right off the bat. Of course, they had some solid Porygon 2 switching, tracing the opponent's ability, tracing Regenerator at just the right moment to switch it out and gain back some health. Really good predictions this week by the Haxo Haldarin and completely deserving of staying in the top 3. Next up is, of course, the biggest jump in the power rankings, claiming the number 2 spot this week. The Montreal Canadienses, now with a 2-0 record and winning 5-0 this week. Again, jumping 17 spots because last week they hadn't completed their week 1 battle by the time the power rankings needed to be done. So the Montreal Canadienses really making themselves known here. Again, with the 5-0 victory, hazard stacking against the opponent that has no way to remove it was very well done. And then picking the right time to set up Dragon Dance with a Zygarde, allowing them to completely run through the opponent. The Montreal Canadienses certainly making a lot of great plays in this Week 2 battle, and I think that they are going to be staying in this top 10 for quite a while. Last but certainly not least, in the number 1 spot this week, climbing from number 2 to number 1, is the Boston Celebi. The Boston Celebi now with a 2-0 record and claiming a 6-0 sweep this week of their opponent. And of course, we talked about it earlier, but they picked the perfect time to set up with their Empoleon, and then the opponent set the rain for their Empoleon to complete the sweep. So well played, realizing the opportunity to setting up multiple agilities when able to, then able to outspeed and outpower everything on the opponent's side of the field. So that is going to do it for our Week 2 power rankings in the Pokemon Ubers League. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to drop a like and subscribe for all of our Draft League content. Take a look at the description as well for all the information about the coaches who have channels and will be posting all their individual content, as well as where you can find me and all of my wonderful, wonderful content. So, once again, I am the Online Orphan, and I am signing out.